Dun, 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 Cupid
Cupid
balls.
balls. Yeah.
Yeah, that one I think was pretty good. Pretty good right there.
That's awesome. So you are dressed up today.
This is actually dressed down.
I
So,
am slightly dressed down today.
oh, I thought you had like suit pants on.
I thought about it. I do have underwear on.
Oh, well, underwear counts. Underwear counts. That's good. That's good. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Kilted Balls podcast. You got Kilted here and Ballbuster hanging out on another
Yes.
brilliant Tuesday.
Yes.
Great day. How is it down there? It was a high of, I think, 27 today up here. So,
Yeah,
balmy.
you're sending some of your cold air down. I think the low tonight is supposed to dip in the 20s. Someone told me that.
Woo! That is,
So it's going to
that's
be
crazy.
chilly.
So
Mhm.
I am drinking. I think I told you this before. I don't know if I told other people, but I got tricked at Meyer into buying some barbecue whiskey.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, and it was way too sweet, right? Like it was like drinking sugar, which I don't mind drinking sugar if it's in the form of like Fago or
Hmm.
Mountain Dew or something, but not my whiskey.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like it, but then I cut it last time with something, and I blend a lot of my whiskeys anyway. So then I'm like, you know what?
Hmm.
Today I'm going to have someone. I put about a finger in, and I put a finger in of my just generic whiskey, like a Canadian knockoff, and I think it needs like three fingers in the knockoff.
I was hoping that was going to go a different way. I'm a little sad about that.
It's good, like it's better. Like I'm like, oh, like I'll drink this
Hmm.
glass. Whereas if it was just the
Hmm.
straight stuff, I'd pour it out. Um,
Oh, okay.
but I'm like, so I can add more later. But as of
Yeah.
right now, I'm like, okay, it's good, but
There we
it's
go.
still a
Let's
little
see.
too sweet. Oh, look at you with your glasses.
I was wondering why my eyes were hurting.
Oh my gosh. So I have so many different things I want to talk about today. I don't know
I
what you
have
got
something.
planned.
I had some plans in my head, but something came up, and just a quick story. And we have listeners who have a job and they love, and they go in and they take care of it. And we do have listeners who are entrepreneurs, and they have that entrepreneurial spirit. And I in aspects of the entrepreneurial personality and myself, I do
Mhm.
thrive with a lot of different things. I do know some weaknesses that I have, and one of them is like new technology. Like I'm not great at trying to learn something new that would be beneficial, like updating my website. So I get a call last night. A customer is frantic. She can't find her cart. She doesn't know what's going on. And you know this because I had called
Yes.
you and I was
Hmm.
filling you in. So apparently all my stuff was older, and like stuff just started getting wonky. So there's no, like, when people were adding stuff to their cart, if they didn't click checkout now, there's no way to get back to your cart unless you add something else. And
Right.
then you can go back and delete it, which is what I had her do.
Yeah.
So today, like last night, I did some research. I found some place, and we talked about AI, and I found a
Hmm.
few AI options and things like that. So I'm like, okay, like this will be good for me to learn. I'm something I'm interested in, and it's going to
Hmm.
help my website. So today, I mean, we spent the night at the warehouse last night. So like I was back here early. I'm like, I need to work on this all day. So I was working on it, updating stuff, inputting all the data I needed to input. And then I'm realizing that it's not, well, first, let me back up a step. Before I started putting all that stuff in, I'm going through the web page where I bought the website, and it's like, okay, you have to do this and link your website to us instead of where you have it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Because my website is and this is part which I don't understand. My website is hosted by Terranet, not Shopify, but everything is through Shopify. That's how I update it and all that stuff. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
I'll do this. It's through this company, so everything should all be the same. So I update it, and then all of a sudden I have no website. For it was probably 2 hours today. I
Ah,
had no website at all. Like it was just like screen of death, like don't go here. And it's telling you not to go there, that someone's trying copy it. So I'm typing in
Oh,
all my
no.
stuff as fast as I can, queen, king, and full, and then I put it live. And then I'm realizing it's not going to Shopify, it's going someplace else. So I got to like update all my payment information and everything like that. So today was one of those days where I learned a lot. I learned like, finally, I was just like, I need to click back over to where it's posted in Shopify because there's too many more hoops that I would have to jump through that like I would lose pricing on shipping and things like
Right,
that
right.
wouldn't be worth it. So, but I think I learned enough doing it through this other site where it was a little bit scary, like getting a new theme on Shopify and starting from zero, which I had to do today anyways.
Right.
So yeah, I'm happy about that. But the reason I look like I do, I went for a run and I didn't feel like taking a shower yet. So I was just like, you know what? We're going to be recording soon. I played some video games waiting for you to get a hold of me. And yeah, I was just like, I'm just chilling
And if
and
you're
thankful for
listening
what I
to us
learned.
instead of watching, which we
Yeah.
totally get, listening to
Mhm.
us is way better than watching us, but you are missing out because this might be the sexiest kilt it's ever been. Right? His hair's
I do
kind
have
of,
a muscle shirt on that
he has a
I've
muscle
worn
shirt.
running like 100
His hair's
times.
a
Need
little
to
bit
rewash it.
matted and like it looks like
It's
some girl just like put their
it's not
hands through
quite.
it and ruffled it.
Okay, so the real story is
It's
but
pretty great.
no, I'm thankful for what I learned. And as soon as I switched the website back over, I've been getting multiple sales like since I switched it, but I still need to fix it.
It's like all of a sudden it's
That's
working, right?
no, that's not working. It's still
Oh,
doing what it was doing before,
oh,
but
even though
it's
you went back to
actually
Shopify?
well, no, but yeah, I mean, it still doesn't have a cart button.
Oh no. I thought it
So,
was
but
back to normal.
no, I still need to change everything. It's an old version. It's not updated to 2.0. There is an app, I can download the 2.0 and make the changes. I haven't done that yet. I wasn't ready
Okay.
to step into that with just a little bit of time left tonight after spending all day on it.
No, I would
So
understand that.
that's one of the many hats you get to wear as an entrepreneur. You can pay someone to do something, or you get to wear a new hat. And on my resume, I say web developer.
Yeah. Well, Gary V, who we talk about a lot, he tells people that if you want to be the owner of your business, you've got to know everything. Dive
Mhm,
in, learn it, then have somebody else do it so you at least
mhm.
understand what's going on,
Yes. And I had
right?
no idea.
Yeah, and so that's probably a good experience for you.
Yeah.
Probably a good experience. So I have a lot of facial hair if you're
Yes,
listening
you
instead of
do.
watching. Yeah, and a funny story about this, like I was getting ready to shave it off. It was only there because I was lazy. And then I was like, oh, I should probably not just use a razor. I should use one of my shavers and then use a razor. And so that would mean I'd have to get it all out. And so I'm just too lazy. So I
Hmm.
kept going. I'm like, you know what? It doesn't look too bad. I actually feel like I look thinner and more distinguished. I'm like, maybe I'll leave it. And I went to like one of my daughters, the one who we always go to see if something like
Hmm.
looks good or makes sense, the Ava, and we're like, hey, I'm like, what do you think of this? Should I leave it? Does it look okay? What's your thoughts? And she's like, yeah, I think it looks good. You should leave it. I'm like, cool. So I've been leaving it.
Hmm.
And then yesterday, I was like sitting next to my wife, who we've interviewed, and I'm like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And she's like, well, I think you need to upkeep it. Like, you can't just let it get, I hate it when things
Hmm.
are all shaggy. I'm like, okay, but if I upkeep it, like, what do you think? She's like, yeah, I don't mind it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's not what I asked. I go, what I asked was, do you like it?
Hmm.
And she's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, no, what I'm saying is, would you rather have it shaved off or would you have it like this, but, kept up?
Hmm.
She's like, it's fine. It's okay. It's fine.
It's
And I'm
nice
like,
she's letting you be your own person.
well, I'm like, okay, okay. I'm like, I don't have a measurement with this. I'm like, so my face right now? And she's like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, okay. I go, how is my face when I shaved it? And she's like, oh, it's fine. It's okay. I'm like, I'm like, okay, so it
Newsflash,
makes
you have a fine face.
I guess my face is fine.
Not the
So I'm
good
like, it's
fine.
okay. It's okay. So I'm like, literally, her response to it being like this is the exact same response to it being completely shaved off. It's the same to her either way. So
Nice.
I thought, and she's giving me like dirty looks right now through a window. She's like,
I like how you use the Just for Men and on your mustache, make it super
oh
dark,
my gosh,
and then the rest gray.
I
That's awesome.
almost took a picture for the podcast. Maybe I'll take it and put it on there tomorrow. And I have a poster that is Mark Ruffalo. Is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
The Incredible Hulk, right? And it's a picture, and it's like, before I like became famous in Hollywood, I wrestled, right?
Mhm.
So I have a whole bunch of these posters of people who wrestled, and that's one of
Yeah.
them. It's like, before I did this, I wrestled, and I was looking at it today. He has the exact same coloring.
You guys are twinsies.
I'm like, we're twins. I almost like took a
Mhm.
picture and like tweeted at him, like, dude, we got the same facial hair, all white here, super dark here.
Yeah, that's
We're probably
awesome.
related,
Well,
right?
I trimmed mine, and Gina really liked when I trimmed the mustache a little bit. So it looks really dirty right now.
Yeah, you totally look
she
like,
liked it.
the
Mhm.
70s, like child molester. It's cool.
Mhm.
I like it.
At least it was in the 70s. Well, it's funny. We talk a lot about how things have changed, and this is just super quick because it occurred to me and it was hilarious. And you saying that. So I'm running the other day and I'm listening to my music, and it's just on random.
Sure.
And a song came on, Kiss. I've always been a big Kiss fan. I've been to
Huge.
some huge.
I think,
Kiss
didn't I say
concerts
that when I
and
got
things.
on? I'm like, oh, you're in your Kiss outfit.
Oh, there we go. And so yeah, but the song is Christine 16, which is a song that I don't often sing in my head, but like listening to it now on the Peloton, and we're much older now.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
13 singing Christine 16. It's really, really creepy song.
It's like a creepy song. Like if they did that in concert right now, you'd be like,
exactly.
Really?
And
Kinda weird.
I mean, they weren't young when they did that song.
No, there's a whole bunch of those songs that I hear and I'm like, oh.
So it's just funny. So what else do we got?
What else do we got? What else? Well, so there was that. I had another thing. First off, I was talking to a guy today, and they were talking about how kiddos these days, and you hear that from old people a lot, kiddos these days.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that kiddos a lot of times, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we talk about this. But he was like, they don't understand that it's the struggle that's important. Like you've got to value the struggle. They're like, your daughter gets that. It's like impressive. She's wise beyond her years. She understands it's the struggle that's important. And I'm like, I go, that is so true. And I'm like, we talk about that, right? Like the objective, whether you get your goal or not, we talked about that a few weeks ago. The goal isn't the important part. It's the struggle to get your goal, which by the way, I keep forgetting. I kind of want to order one of those Jesse Itzler calendars, the buy one, get one. Did you buy yours?
Okay. I did not. If you want to order them,
I wasn't sure if you were going to order one for you and Gina or you and me or me and Amy. I think Amy would think it's totally stupid. So
okay, I don't know if Gina would want one either. Jason,
okay, so you and I'll get one.
That's the thing I wasn't sure about, if we were going to do like a 3 or a 2 or a 4.
Yes, me too.
I don't. Was it on the group today when he was talking? I think it was. I don't know if you've caught up, but yeah, he was talking about it earlier today, because he's done something like that on his own in the past and done it a little bit different that he likes better. But I do love how Jesse Itzler was talking about, like, make each year mean something. Like, what was this year about? What was 2023 about for us?
Yes.
So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, I think that's crazy important. And I kind of want to focus on that. And like, I don't necessarily care about the calendar. I want to hear his message. Like I'm paying the money to hear him. I can make my own freaking calendar.
Yeah.
But I want to hear him and how he does it and how he looks at it. And I just am like, that's worth $30-$40 to me to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
And if you're going, really, you'd pay 30 or 40 to hear what he has to say? Yeah. Like it's good stuff. And it reminds me, right before I got on, we were looking at Instagram. My wife shows me this person like checking out at a store and how she's having like a panic attack as they're scanning the items for her charcuterie board or whatever for the holidays. And she's like, it's so real. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like, the
Hmm.
last two trips to Meyer have been $600 trips.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
crazy.
I couldn't have imagined spending that, you know, 10, 15
Hmm.
years ago.
Yeah.
So yay, inflation. Woo.
Hmm.
Speaking
It's
of
real.
inflation,
Yes.
if you haven't people tried our 36 step challenge or joined our
Mhm.
Discord, you should join it. We've been tweeting polls. So if you don't follow Kilted Balls on Twitter, you should follow us because we've
Mhm.
been running some polls about different ways we should set up our challenge and different questions. I noticed there's a couple people who continuously repost and like what you and I post.
Awesome.
I have no idea who they are.
Really? That's even
One of them,
better.
and they don't vote, they just
Hmm.
repost. And I noticed
Is it
like
a
one of
bot?
them, I noticed one of them, they don't have a ton of followers or whatever,
Hmm.
but they have reposted 9,000 times.
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, is that part of the algorithm? Like, you get paid if you repost a billion
Maybe.
times? I don't know. I thought it was really interesting. And one of them actually like makes posts, but also reposts everything. So I'm just like,
Okay.
maybe there's a system here I don't know. But it also makes me laugh because Chime Sweepstakes followed me after I tweeted about
Hmm.
maybe using Chime for the challenge.
Hmm.
And so I followed them back. They only had 24 followers. I felt bad
Hmm.
for them. So I followed them back. Today I got a direct message like, hey, send us your email with your account and your phone number. You just won $1,000 from our sweepstakes. You'd be so happy. I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to send you
Darn it.
anything.
Darn it. Oh, we were talking about that last night. It was exciting. Like, okay, maybe they have something going on.
Yeah, the sweepstakes one is not. The real Chime is sending me
Hmm.
swag. So that's for sure.
That's
And
super
I announced
awesome.
that on here, right? That I was going to get a hold of Chime
Hmm.
and I'll get a hold of them again and be like, listen, we're doing stuff, right? Send me some
Yeah.
swag. We'll give it away on the
I'll have to do
podcast,
that as
baby.
well. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
That'd be
So let
sweet.
me take a quick step back. And
Yeah.
I talked about this earlier. Um, we were listening to the radio, and I guess Merriam-Webster has their word of the year every year.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Hmm. Have you heard what it is this year?
I probably did a long time ago, but not enough that I'd remember.
I heard it was fairly new, but the word of the year for Merriam-Webster for 2023, authentic, which I loved. I
I
thought
think that
that
is
was
great.
awesome. And we've talked about it a bunch on here. We were
So
talking about
much.
it from VCon. It was a huge thing to talk about. So I just want to give a shout out to being authentic.
Well, that is fantastic. I love it.
Hmm.
Um, one of the things I wanted to share today with our listeners and you, because I think you'll find this interesting, amusing, funny. But I was scrolling along today and I found the 20 most powerful paradoxes of life.
Awesome.
You got that? And I didn't send it to you because I wanted to like introduce it here. And
Okay.
so there were a couple of them that I thought were really interesting. I'm not going to read all 20 listeners, but
All
like let me hit
right.
the first one for you. And then I'm going to scroll through to some other paradoxes and you'll see why I chose those ones because they resonate. But like here's the first one. They call it the growth paradox. Okay.
Hmm.
And they said growth takes a much longer time coming than you think. And then it happens much faster than you ever would have thought. Growth happens gradually, then suddenly. When you realize this, you start to do things differently. I'm like,
That's
okay,
awesome.
that's a good paradox. Um, here's one we've talked about before, right? It's called the effort paradox. You have to put in more effort to make something appear effortless. Effortless, elegant performances are often the result of a large volume of effortful, gritty practice. Small things become big things. Simple is not simple.
I love
Right.
that.
And we've talked about that. Like when
Hmm.
we do something and people are like, oh my gosh, it's so easy for you. Well, it's because we've done a lot of hard stuff
Yeah.
to get to that point.
Hmm.
So I want to hit the ones that I thought would be good. Oh, here's one for our listeners. Listeners, this is just for you. This isn't for us. But this one I think you guys would like. It's called the productivity paradox. So here's the productivity paradox, listeners. Work longer, get less done. Parkinson's law says that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. When you establish fixed hours to your work, you find unproductive ways to fill it. Work like a lion instead. Sprint, rest, repeat.
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people need to hear that. Like, don't like plan for 10 hours because you know what? You'll use 10 hours. Like, don't do that. Okay, here's one that we've talked about. We're not even to the one I wanted to tell you yet. This is called the money paradox. You have to lose money in order to make money. Every successful investor and builder has stories of the invaluable lessons learned from a terrible loss in their career. Sometimes you have to pay to learn. Put skin in the game. Scared money don't make money. And by the way, listeners, that's what our 36-step challenge is about. Throw in $100 for you. Like, we're not taking it. It's your money. And, see where you can go. It's trying to make it less scary.
I know Gina's been going through some ideas that she has too. She's excited.
She needs to do it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that one, here's another one called the failure paradox. You have to fail more to succeed more. Our greatest moments of growth often stem directly from our greatest failures. Don't fear failure. Just learn to fail smart and fast. Getting punched in the face builds a strong jaw. And I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you've got to fail. You got to fail over and over. That's what makes you good. That's when you learn. You never learn just from like doing it. Okay. Don't like that one.
Yeah. My first boss, when I started doing shows, like I was not very good, but she really liked me. And she's like, people like you. So I kept you around.
Yes.
And now I just got better.
Yes. And you get better and better. I'm skipping through like so many of these because I want to hit the ones that we would like. Where's the one? I might have missed it, right?
Oh, boo.
No, I probably didn't miss it. Like maybe I'm just slow. Nope, so I did.
If you're fairly new to the show, thank you and welcome. And if you wonder kind of what we've been talking about recently, like the kind of themes that we've been going through and different things like that, there's a popular podcast. You might have heard of the guy. His name is Joe Rogan. So him and
yes, I've heard of Joe Rogan.
Rock Johnson, both popular guys. They were talking, and there were lines directly from podcasts of working hard and things like that, and
like from us.
Like I'm like, did they listen to our show and they're talking about this?
I bet The Rock and Joe Rogan listen to it probably while they're like jogging or running. Right.
So I thought that was super awesome, and I told you a little bit. The episode was super good. If you get into Joe Rogan, I like Joe. I thought The Rock would be fun to listen to, and it was a really good episode. But I did love, like, them saying similar stuff that we've said and experienced in life. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I haven't listened to Joe Rogan for a long time, only because he was saying some really weird stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm like, I don't want to, like, it's dumb because I wasn't even listening, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to give that brain power.
I see.
I'm like, that's probably not great. So I was like trying not to give him my energy and power because I was worried about it. But like people will send me clips and I like his clips. So
I go through stages. I mean, if I see people that I like, not that I'm a huge rock fan, I do, he is, I think would be a cool guy, someone really cool to hang out with. But he has other guests on there who are people that I love and I really like that. I always listen to those.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's awesome. So yeah, maybe I'll share with you those.
Find it?
Nah. Maybe I'll share with you those 20 paradoxes. Maybe I already said it, but it made me think when you were doing your webpage stuff that you've got to like go out there. Oh, no, it is. I skipped it like 3 times because I'm like, oh yeah, that's not the one, but it really is the one. So it's one that I tell people all the time, and they call it the wisdom paradox. And it's the more I learn, this is a quote from Albert Einstein. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. The more you learn, the more you are exposed to the immense unknown. And this should be empowering not frightening. Embrace your own ignorance, embrace lifelong learning. And it goes to what you were talking about today. Like, when you're like updating your webpage, you're deciding to go through Spotify and you had to like dig down into that stuff because it mattered. But then you learn how much stuff you don't freaking know. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, there's so much you don't know. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I didn't know that thing because I don't plan that thing. Right. Which is why, like Gary Vee says, make sure you do the stuff, because if you don't do it, you won't even know what you don't know. And when people tell you stuff, you'll just like believe it or whatever, because you don't even know what you don't know.
Yeah. Because the last time the web page was done, like it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. And there are things on there that I can't undo. So I kind of have to rebuild it from scratch. Yeah. Like even on the back end, it says, don't believe this. It can mess a bunch of stuff up and it's not stuff that I want anymore.
Right.
So yeah, it's still there.
Yes. Well, I'm hoping you use AI, because I've heard multiple people who say that like your AI can do your webpage for you, which sorry for my webpage design friends and my graphic design friends, like there's a rough time with AI coming where it's catching up fast.
Yeah. And I saw that Shopify had it, but I didn't know where it was. And then from doing the other site, which was just a little button you clicked, I found it on the Shopify, and it's the same thing. You just type it in and you can click some parameters that you like. And, and yeah, I'll be revamping a lot of my stuff and adding obviously more. So, I mean, that was a good find. So I'm super excited about that. And
I bet it'll be awesome. And I think you'll be more fulfilled figuring it out yourself and having it done than relying on weirdos to do it who are purposely making it so that you can't do it.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right. And that's what they're doing, right? Like you might get to the end and find out
5 figures, and then I'll take care of this for you. And
I think that's like all the time people will do that. I still remember a guy early on in like 1999. He was like going through all this webpage stuff, and he like knew the backbones of like HTML programming. And I'm like, why do I care? Because even right now, like a thing can do it. He's like, well, it's just good to know this stuff. And he's like, and people will pay you big money for this stuff. He goes, because they don't know it. I'm like, but it's dumb stuff. Like, it's dumb stuff. And he's like, yeah. And because people don't know any better, they pay for that. And I'm like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, cripe, just use Google Sites if you're weirded out by it. You could make one fast. Like it's not that hard, not for us, right? Not for sales or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can. So the challenge thing, let's just circle back to that before
for sure. That's a great idea.
So my latest poll. So I've had two polls on Twitter, listeners. The first poll was, do you have to put it into an account to actually count it as a step? So we talked last week, you start with $100, you got to turn it into 130, and that's step one. And then your next step is, I don't know, 167, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of pulling these out of my head. We've got them written down in the Discord if you actually care to look. So the thought was, okay, if you're going to tell us, hey, we completed step one or we completed step two, yay. Like, should that be in an account? Should I be like, okay, here's my Chime account. See, it's at 100. And look, today it's at 130. Here's a screenshot of my Chime account. And we're like, yay, you hit step one, and we tweet about it and we give you a reward, or we send you a prize from Chime or whatever. I don't know, right? We want to celebrate the victories. Or is it enough for you to be like, okay, the first thing I did was to invest it in a timeshare, and, I got $167 back. So I'm at step two. And we go, yeah, that's good enough. You're on step two. Nice job.
Yeah.
And so the problem we have, if you didn't hear, I think we talked about this last week. I can't remember. The problem is like, if I put my money in my Ameritrade account, well, it costs fees to put it in and to pull it out and put it in and pull it out. And if that's how I'm trying to do my thing, at least in the beginning, that's not really good. And so do I say, yeah, it doesn't count until you actually put it back? So maybe you put it back when it's $1,000 and you're like, look, I'm on step 5. Or do we say, oh no, we
Thousands
can
almost
see that
definitely.
it's growing in your account.
Yeah.
So we know that you've hit step 5.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? And I'm kind of with you on this. Like the whole thing is for fun anyway. It's
Hmm.
just to have a
Yeah.
community, and it's a community challenge, kind of like, hey, do 100 push-ups every day. Like we're not watching you do 100 push-ups every day.
Hmm.
Like do it.
Yeah.
And if you miss, be honest and tell us you miss. Right. So
I think that part, like moving in and out, like I expressed that, like especially if we're trading, or like you said, like your Ameritrade account, it costs, even if it's in PayPal.
yes.
Now I'm probably going to be doing some trades with mine, so I will definitely screenshot and show like, oh look, I made it to this step, look at here. And some people may want to do that and share, and some people
Right.
may not. Some people might just want to be more private and like, hey, I did this, like,
And
I
here's
would
how I
love
did
to
it.
I would love to celebrate that. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
We're gonna want to know, people, how you did it. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
like that's part of
Yeah,
the fun.
that's part of the
So,
camaraderie,
mhm.
and I think that's awesome.
Like tell us what you did. And so that's why it becomes like a thing. So I'm kind of with you there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah. The question today was, so in the account I was going to use, so this is just a quick backstory, listeners. The account I was going to use was in Chime, and it
Mm-hmm.
has $300 in it, like
Mm-hmm.
325. It had more from different transactions, but that's where it's at right now. And I could take money out of it and make it start at 100, or I could just leave it at 325 and say I'm at, I don't know what's 325.
Step 4.
So I
You're
could say,
between 4 and 5.
yeah, I could say, okay, I'm at step 4 and I'm just starting at step 4,
Mm-hmm.
and Kilton and I have talked about that before. Like, does it count if you add money to bolster your numbers? Which this is kind of doing that. You're starting at 300, and so you're giving yourself a head start on step 4. Well, there's no accolades for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's a problem. And again, it's all for fun. So is it a problem? Or should we all start at 100 so that like a year from now we can be like, hey, look, oh, I made it to step 2, I made it to step 3, I made it to
Mm-hmm.
step 0. Oh, you suck. Or you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I think if somebody, and I posted this, if somebody has the means and they want to start further ahead, and they
mhm,
might have some of that knowledge, but you are going to lose, even like if you start, like you said, if you start at step 5, that was 5 chances of successes and failures that you don't get to experience.
right, exactly. But you start way further ahead, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you
Yeah.
figure, this isn't true, people, but let's say you figured every step was going to take you a year,
Mm-hmm.
which could be possible, then if you start at step 4, you've jumped 4 years ahead, which is kind of cool. But is it the point?
Mm-hmm.
My thought was, for me
Yeah.
personally, the whole point of this was to choose an amount of money that you didn't care about.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, that $300 is sitting in an account that I don't use.
Mm-hmm.
So do I care about it? On the other hand, it takes no anything for me. That's the account that I fund my arrived homes. So I'm like, I could just take that and buy 200 shares of some arrived home and bring that
Mm-hmm.
sucker down to like 125, which is more reasonable.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. And I'm
Not sure
also
where you're
like,
gonna start.
I'm literally frozen with indecision about what to do. Honestly.
Well,
Like
I
it's
just looked.
so dumb.
I was down. I opened up a trade and I set my stop losses, and I was down. So I was actually less than 100,
Yes.
and I set a buy, a market, or not a market buy, a limit. And I just looked at Bitcoin, and I opened up another short earlier today, which
Oh
I
my
didn't
gosh.
realize, because there was another spike, a big old spike. And
So,
so yeah, I'm back in the game.
which,
Gotta
by
get
the
back
way,
to 100.
totally gonna judge Kilted here, people, and you can all judge him with me if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But my idea, and I told this to him, was I wanted the challenge to be everything super low risk. So there was no risk of you ever going backwards. And Kilted goes straight in and does a short and goes backwards.
That was low risk. I set my stop losses. That's low risk. And it was only 5x. I think it was 5x.
No. Well, and it's funny because I literally went to do the same thing. So I was like
a 10x.
I was like, yeah,
I'm not
I'm
doing
gonna
any
do a
higher
short.
than 10.
I'm like, I'm gonna go do a short. I'm like, wait a second. The whole reason in my brain was that I wanted people to do things that weren't risky and show, hey, I can make 30% on non-risky.
Everything's
stuff.
even if you go to Goodwill and you buy, because I have some stuff from Goodwill that I bought recently, and you still have to list it, you still have to Facebook Marketplace or eBay or whatever. So even that's a risk.
It's a risk, but it's not a risk that you'll go crazy negative. You hope.
Well, if you don't set your stop losses.
Well, I'm saying, and if you like, you'd have to like sell at a loss all your Goodwill stuff.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Or not sell it. But anyway, people, stick with us to hear more about the 36-step challenge. We're running out of time. It was great spending it with you. Hopefully you learned something. And this is Ballbuster signing off.
Filter Dragon Jerry, love you all.